Thank you for having me. We've just had some weird issues going on. For some reason, this game has been a bit of an odd thing to try and get set up. But this is Eastern Exorcist. Why it's like smack bang in between a game Fire Emblem Engage and Final Fantasy VIII? We'll go to the next question. Usually I would be using this fancy contraption to be playing this game, but doesn't really want to be playing ball, so I'll be doing some weird hybrid thing, but we can talk about what's going on when we get into the game. How would I describe this game? Usually I would describe it as similar to like a 2D version of a Sekiro, but also mixed with some beat-em-up style things, but we will be getting started in 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so what is this game? We have to fight a lot of enemies. We are going to be making our way through this game. Why is my dodge button not working when I go forward? This game is... we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine, I swear. We will make it through it. We're just going through the tutorial for the time being, as I can dodge backwards, but not forward. Cool. Let's go. Similar to, like, as I was mentioning, similar to, say, like a Sekiro, there is a lot of emphasis on just parrying, a lot of dodging, a lot of just working around the attacks of your enemies. As we are going to be getting into one of the big things in this game, it's the slashes. So, you see when quote-unquote kill an enemy, we'll go into the state where it needs to be dispelled. The best way to get enemies into this state is by doing a lot of damage to them and just hitting them enough times that they get taken into this state. Usually the best way to do so is with these slash attacks, because otherwise they are not taking a lot of damage. Like regular normal slash attacks, they're fine, but then you do a slash attack and it does a lot of damage. And usually this would be going a lot faster, but this setup is... what is this one? Right, that works. Is that the button? Yeah, that's the button. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing with this setup. Yeah, and like this enemy is like definitely showing you that you want to be using the slashes. Like if I do this, it's not going to do much. Is it that one? No, it's that one. And if I don't dispel it, and I'll show you, they respawn and you have to fight them again. So ideally, the plan is to not allow them to get to this state. This is real weird. It feels like I'm playing through Jello, and that is by no fault of anyone. We'll make do. Alright, let me just get to this enemy. Where's my dash button? Usually, like, one way to really speed things up is there's a lot of ways in which you can cancel out of certain animations. Like, you'll see the animation for the dispel takes a little bit, and when there ends up being like a decent amount of enemies on the screen, you want to be able to move from enemy to enemy reasonably quickly. So you can technically dash outside of at any point to speed up that animation. And as we see, shielded enemy, that's annoying. Stop that. Alright. Messing up, but we should be fine. Thankfully, we got a lot of time to work with here, so. Yeah. And as I was saying, similar to, say, like a beat 'em up, you have to get rid of all the enemies on the screen before you can move to the next one. This is just the tutorial segment, so we will be fine. This is going to be one of the upgrade materials. There are a lot of upgrade materials that you will be getting throughout the run. You do have like like a level up system, and when it comes later on, we are going to have a bunch of different abilities that we'll be picking up throughout the run. We'll be mainly using just 2 of them because they're really good for the speedruns. In terms of the story, there's spirits. We'll deal with them. It's gonna get a little grisly at some parts, but yeah, it should be fine. Let me make way through. Remember what button it is to dash. Oh, it's L. That's the one. There we go. Now we're moving. Don't worry, I'm picking things up. I'm used to using something completely different. We'll be fine. These enemies, flying enemies, absolutely the worst. There's a lot of flying enemies throughout the game. We will try and deal with a lot of them. I did mention, like, I tweeted out a little bit ago that, like, oh, I've found a way to skip an entire screen of enemies. And as you may imagine, in a game where fights can take a while, you want to try and get around as much as possible. Being able to skip an entire screen is a lot. So being able to do that, as you can see, you can kind of dash cancel out of the spell animation just to speed things up. And similarly, there is kind of that sheathing animation that they will do as they put the sword away. You can cancel that animation just by jumping. And when that is going to be happening consistently throughout this entire run, the time does add up. Alright, now that I remember how to play on keyboard, it's going to go much better, I swear. Bit of a rocky start, we'll be fine. Alright, so off the bat, we do want to interact with this, level up, get that parry skill, and upgrade as much as we can, because this opening boss fight, and there are going to be quite a few amount of boss fights throughout this game, and there is a very specific mechanic to boss fights throughout this game that is very important, and is that the vast majority of them are going to have shields, and while the shield is active, they take like 90% less damage. So what we want to be doing is dodge. We want to dodge. Swing at me, I swear. And when that icon comes up, that's when you know you've got that perfect parry or the perfect dodge, and you can actually get like a big counterattack off, which, as you can see, does a lot more of the damage to the shield. Doesn't come up there, but fine. Alright. Back into the swing of things. And even the vast majority of the bosses, you still have to dispel them as well. Alright. First boss down. That's the tutorial boss. We're fine. We're fine. It's a little bit of a rocky start, but we're fine. We're gonna get through it. As I said, a little bit of grisly imagery. We're gonna be fine. The vast majority, as I said, the vast majority of the boss fights will have this shield mechanic that we will have to deal with. There are a few that do not have that mechanic, and that makes them really annoying to deal with. But we have other ways to do so. I was talking with a few friends before about how this run, sometimes there's one of the bosses later on that, for pretty much no reason at all, just essentially boss RNG, can go into a state where they are just, you are unable to interact with them for like an entire minute. So I am hoping that that does not happen. Alright. And as mentioned, this is still just tutorial section. And usually at this like early point of the game, most of the plan is to just use this jumping slash into a follow-up slash, because that does a lot of damage. And also the distance that it covers is really nice as well, so you can just keep on chasing down enemies and then dispel them and chase on even further. And yeah, that's the prologue / tutorial dealt with. And we shall be able to get into the game proper. In terms of story, we kind of got blamed for everything that happened because we kind of let that fox spirit go, and like they're probably working for the enemy. So they're just like, how could you do that? You've ruined everything. You know, the standard thing. So we're going to make amends and try make things better. So we're essentially making our way to the village of friends who's passed. Please, thank you. And we shall go on our merry way, still doing our Exorcist thing. These is annoying. Right. As you can see, like, there will be several waves of enemies per screen, so it can get a little bit annoying when some enemies are trying to be all sorts of areas of the screen. They're trying to fly away, they're trying to be as annoying as possible. So anytime we can skip a fight, it's incredible. The fact that I've managed to find a way to skip a fight a few days ago, I was like, hell yeah. And it was against some of the most annoying enemies in the game. It's like some flying wraiths and some little doodly enemies that are just zooming all over the screen. Being able to dodge like a bunch of those, really nice. Now if I can get that, I'll be very happy, but with how things have been going, who knows? But hey, I'm going to take my time with it because taking the few, like even 5 to extra seconds, never mind this, they're fine, they're fine. But yeah, like taking the few extra seconds to make sure I get the skip beats like the minute it takes to do that fight. So... we will be fighting quite a few more of these enemies. Hey, you don't usually fight like that. Now this is the first of the exorcism arts that we get access to, and it's the spell blades, and they are very good. They're very good up until the point where I get something that's even more broken. So we can enjoy it while it lasts. As we make our way through the village, I do want to grab the shrine here because it is mostly used as a point to teleport to later on. And while I'm here, I am going to upgrade this. That's all I'm going to need of that for the entire run because that one. Just going to grab a bunch of these as well. Just extra experience early on, especially to fight one of the upcoming bosses is one of the few that does not have a shield, so you just have to hit it a lot, which can be very annoying. Alright, so moving on, and we'll be able to see very quickly why the spell blades are really nice to use. So when I dispel, it's going to fire a blade at nearby enemies. When I get perfect dodges, it's going to fire blades at nearby enemies. So there's going to be a lot of blades flying at nearby enemies. And this is, as you can see, probably it's a good reason why it's a good spell to have early on in the game, especially when we've upgraded it as much as we have early on. It is quite good. You don't even need to do anything and they're all dead. See, sometimes games are just so easy. And one thing to note, this is on casual difficulty, and one thing about casual difficulty compared to the other difficulties, it's not just a thing about how much damage the enemies do, how much health they have. There are quite a few other factors that do go into. Come on, grab that. They're going into what is changed via the difficulty. One thing you haven't really probably noticed too much so far, but there is like a stamina economy in this game where every time you attack, you use stamina. Every time you block something, you use stamina. Every time you dodge in the fight, you use stamina. That doesn't really matter in casual because it is very generous with how much stamina it like allows you to use, and like, the recovery of it is so nice and very generous that you can play like an absolute ape and the game will reward you. In the higher difficulties, you get punished a lot for using stamina a little bit too willy-nilly. And that is both a very annoying thing when it comes to like trying to route speedruns for it, but it is also very interesting when it comes to just like playing casually, because usually you're just like, oh yeah, I'll just play the same style but in the hard difficulty. The game won't let you do that. So let me just quickly level up as much as I can, because this enemy, it's annoying. And similar to the boss that I'm mentioning later on, that can sometimes just be just not present for minutes at a time, this big fish can sometimes do that as well. It'll just go hiding underneath, and we just have to the wheel jump up. We want to use charge attacks, which is what we did end up leveling up. We managed to get bigger charge attacks so they can do more damage. Every now and then it can stay underneath and just fire waves at you. Ideally, you get as much slash attacks onto it, and awkwardly enough, the spell blades don't really do much here, because yes, you see the blades going after them, it does 0 damage while they're underneath the bridge, so we just have to wait for them to make their way back up onto the bridge so we can hit them some more. Why are you saying it that way? I'm not even there. Alright, cool. Good, as you can see, doing some good damage, and wait. Sometimes you can fight this guy, and it will do that 0 times. Somehow, I managed to find a run where it will do it almost every time. So that's just kind of the nature of Boss RNG is one hell of a thing. And another thing about the higher difficulties, during those moments where they are like untargetable, there will be extra enemies for you to deal with. So not only are there extra hindrance on the stamina economy, there is also the usual, hey, they'll do more damage and have more health, but there are also extra things that you have to be dealing with at the same time. So the higher difficulties are definitely an interesting time. It kind of feels like a different game after speedrunning it on casual for so long, where you can just play like an absolute monkey. It's so wonderful. Alright, we use this to teleport back. We will be needing to teleport back very shortly as well. Let me just remember what buttons are doing. Alright, so now that we've dealt with a very, very angry fish, we now need to go find a herbalist of some kind. We need to find someone to treat that person who is very, very sick, and they are in one of the weirdest spots so far away. I don't know why they are as far away as they are, but we gotta go track them down and say, hey, we need your help. Very soon after this stream is one of the first instances of being able to skip these dudes. Cease. Alright. On this next screen is the first instance of skipping a fight. So if I just drop down here, I skip an extra fight, because even though, yes, I am fighting an enemy here, there is an extra fight trigger if I just kept on continuing along that path. And so instead of just the 2 waves that I'm fighting now, it would have been 3. So it is nice that I managed to skip. And if you can skip at least 1 fight, you're pretty happy. Alright. This is going to be a bit of a nuisance, but it should be fine. After this fight is when that's one. Which one's the? Remember which button's which. So we do get to break the shield, and as you can see, once the shield is down, they actually do take damage. Damage storm. Ideally, I have them more towards the right side of the screen, so it's quicker getting to the edge of the screen afterwards. Fine. Come on. Yeah, usually early on, you're happy to spend most of the fights doing a lot more parrying, dodging, just because you don't really have the best ways to do a lot of damage. So this screen here, I found that if I stand on this, drop down here, and then jump up, I skip this entire screen worth of fight. I found that randomly a few nights ago because I couldn't decide on which way I wanted to go. I was like, oh, maybe I want to fight the enemies up top. Nah, maybe I'll fight the ones at the bottom. And I just didn't fight any of them. So I was like, cool. I just found a skip in the middle of nowhere. And the fact that it like so neatly lined up, I was like, even better. It makes it so easy to set that one up. So yeah, I was very happy to find that one just a few days ago. Alright, this enemy. Alright, come on. If the enemy does that kind of move, there is there's a little indication where either a move can be parried or it can't be parried, but you can still dodge it. Like these ones with the big exclamation marks, they can't be parried, but they can be dodged. Come on. Come on. These ones. What's fun? Gonna do my hybrid using my hitbox and also thankfully later on it's not going to matter because I can just spam like an absolute monkey and it works just even better. Alright, there's that boss done. That one we fight a smaller version of later on, but it's not nearly as tough. And as you can see, we're getting all these other various abilities, which are all very cool and fun to use, but we don't need them.
Go away. Lots and what?
The spell blades are fine, they do the job. So we just use the spell blades. And yeah, so that is that. What's that with? It's not until about halfway through the run that we get the lightning stance, which does incredible amount of damage to boss shields, to enemies, to like literally everything. It's incredible how much. Come on. You. Alright, so we need to find where the small child has gone. The only one who knows is this drunk. Why? Who knows? But he won't talk to us unless we get him a drink. Just another day in Australia. Alright, so now that we've gotten our drink, we'll be told that, oh yeah, the child walked into the forest, the really creepy forest that's at like a weird spot in the... come on. One thing that's a little bit awkward sometimes is that the button to talk is also the button to get the sword out. So sometimes if you mistime it, you end up just getting the sword out, and then you have to put the sword away in order to talk to the person, which is not the most ideal, but we'll see what we can do. Alright, so these enemies are really annoying because they like to shield. Never mind, sometimes they just die. Yeah, you can essentially jump to cancel the sheathing animation. And if you do it too early and you will land afterwards, it will want to do the animation again. But if you just jump again, it's going to be okay and you can cancel again. Way to skip another fight is to go up here and then just go high and dash all the way over the top. Fun ways to skip more fights. And especially when it's like enemies like these can be really, as I said, they can be annoying. I don't want to fight more enemies than I need to in this. Alright, cool. Avoid these explosions, and we're going to get to this spot where there's going to be a lot of annoying flying enemies. Hopefully the Spellblades are going to be very kind to me and chase them down for me, so I do not have to follow them at all. And by going up here, we do not run into an extra fight down the bottom because you don't want to fight extra enemies. This is not the child we're looking for, but it is a child in the spooky forest. Alright, let me do some platforming. Yeah, this game does have a reasonable amount of platforming as well, which it's neat. Alright, so before we get into this next boss fight, we want to not that, we want to level up slash talents and then up to 15. Okay. Sorry for the flashbang, but it does that a few times here. Time to fight a rather spooky looking enemy. This thing. Don't know how to describe it. Also, one thing to note, if it starts its animation for a move, even if you do parry it or you break that shield while they're in the startup of the move, they will, the audio will still play for it, so it gets a little bit weird. Timed it. Come on. Yeah. One thing that's nice, the Spellblades will also just activate off a... no. They will just activate off just a perfect parry, which is very nice. It's timed it. There we go. There we go. That thing can sometimes be very, very annoying. So I'm happy to get rid of that one. One thing we're going to be introduced to right here is like one of the storytelling mechanics of this is like it does these little vignettes of kind of the backstory behind how these spirits became so the way they are, and they're done in a very Chinese opera style, which it can be very very abrupt if you're not used to it right off the bat. But I find them just utterly gorgeous. But yeah, this game definitely a hidden gem. I would say, not just for the gameplay, but also just the visuals, the sounds. The story it's neat. That's to say for sure. It's I wouldn't necessarily say it's too spectacular, but it's definitely a fun time, all things considered. Also, you can avoid talking to the guard outside this area just by like kind of dropping down behind him, which is, well, it's not much of a time save, but hey, time save's a time save. Now, this village has a few skeletons in the closet, and by that I mean a woman in a well. Yeah, they aren't necessarily the best of people. Another one of the vignettes will come through, and yeah, this lady was very unceremoniously dumped into a well and put behind all these rocks, and so you can imagine she's maybe a little bit perturbed at this point and is going to take it out on the rest of the village. And we are supposed to stop her. Alright, and now the screen coming up soon was so annoying before I found out that you can just dash cancel the animation of the dispel, because there is a lot of just annoying enemies and they're spread across this entire screen. And it's like, usually, initially it was like, oh, maybe if I can kind of group them all up together, like they just did then anyway. Sure, that works. The initial plan was to like gather them all up together, kill them all at once, and dispel them all at once. But that became very awkward to do in a lot of circumstances. So being able to dash cancel it and just move on to the next enemy became very, very efficient. But they were very kind to me that time. They all just like kind of piled up and made it very easy. So pretty happy with that one. Alright. This is the final boss for the first chapter. There are essentially just 3 separate chapters for this game, so yeah. She's not happy, understandably. But we're an exorcist, they're an evil spirit, you know how this thing tends to go. Funnily enough, this boss is really, really kind of awkward to do when I was doing level 1 runs. Wait for her to come down here. Once we start doing enough damage to her, she is a little bit easier to manage because she will stay low to the ground and we can actually deal with her. But for now, come on, let me. Oh my god, I got hit. Yeah. Although she will do a decent amount of attacks that are unblockable. You just have to dodge them. One thing that is nice though, as long as a hitbox is active in your general direction, if you will, can I please just dodge through these? You can dodge through just any active hitbox and it will give you the perfect parry. As you can see. Boss, as I mentioned, is one of the more annoying ones to deal with, especially because we don't have the lightning stance yet. This is one of the few, or the last bosses that we'll fight before we get the lightning stance. And kind of make bosses a complete non-factor. Corner, awkward, fine. Ma'am. Ma'am. There we go. Jeez. Alright. Also, there is a plus and a con for a plus and a minus for the jump slash. It is good damage. It leads into a slash. And it's very spammable. But it also has like a set distance that it will always go. So it's very easy to just leap right over your enemy and just completely miss. So it's a little bit of an awkward moment, but we should be fine. Well, we got through the first chapter. A few bumps and bruises, but we're fine. Alright. So we're moving on to the second village. We dealt with everything in that first village. I wouldn't say everything ended amicably. There was... Yeah, we'll just move on from that one. Now we're moving on to the second village where there's... It's already in a bit of a bad state. But we're able to interact with the... what are they known as? The scholar? Yeah. And funnily enough, before we leave, he says, whatever you do, don't go into the forest. The miasma there is pretty bad. And if you're watching Aeon's run earlier of Fire Emblem Engage earlier, they said the miasma is bad. The miasma is still bad. But what is it that we do? Right as soon as we leave, we go straight into the forest chasing after this spirit. Because genius. See? There she is, the spirit from the start of the game. We just keep on chasing her down because we think we might get answers about why things ended up the way they did. But now we're just chasing down to the forest, and as we're getting into the next chapter, there's also many different enemies. These things are just annoying. They're gooey. They go under the ground when you can't interact with them at that point. Please. Alright, cool. One cool thing mechanically when it comes to this forest though is it's supposed to be a maze. And the way in which they made that work, if you can see at the bottom of the screen, very faintly, there's a bit of a mist. There's a haze going on. The correct way to go is in the direction of the haze. So you can see now the haze is moving to the left. So after this fight, I have to go to the left. It is very subtle. It will clue you in on that if you keep on moving to the right. Come on. Alright, just pick this up here. Now we fight a big frog. Don't know why this frog's here. It doesn't really get like a big story like the rest of them, but this frog is just here. So I really should stop it trying so I can actually get my heals back. I'm getting hit by a lot of things. Yeah, and thankfully the frog is very... You can spam away at it. Break its shield before it jumps up again. There we go. See, the miasma wants us to go to the right. Like I said. Cool. Let's move on. Yeah, let me just quickly... Yeah, all you need to do is just sit at the shrines and they'll refill your health, they'll refill all of your potions, and you're happy to move on. And now we're into a section about a little bit of human sacrifice. Because this game does cover some rather grisly themes. Like we saw earlier about the poor child that was alone and starving in the forest, which is a little messed up, but it gets a little bit more wild later on as these bats are annoying. Remember what I said about like flying enemies being really annoying? This continues to be the case. Alright, managed to get them. Usually, there was a while where I would try and skip this fight right here, but then I realized that one of the really good upgrade materials is right here, so I figured might as well. It's only a few bats, they're pretty straightforward to deal with, so you can just jump down. Come on. Come on. Cool. Spellblades are really good for dealing with a lot of those flying enemies because they will just target on anything. So all you need to do is like get a slash going, and then just dodge in literally any direction. It will start throwing blades at at all the enemies, which is very, very handy for them. Concussion from this. If there's any messages you want to... While I'm concussed.
So we have a $25 donation from Diesel to rename Squall to Scoob. So Scoob now leads that donation incentive to name or to rename Squall in the Final Fantasy VIII run, which is the very next run. So Scoob on $25 currently leads Squall by just $5. Or Squawk, sorry, by just $5.
Not to mention there is still you in the running for that.
There is still you. You is on $15, so only $10 behind the lead.
Very nice. Alright, so before this next time, we do want to do a little bit of leveling. Actually, one thing about this game is that you can get more or less upgrade material depending on how well you do in fights. Because whenever you break a boss's shield, you'll get more resources. So sometimes you're working with more or less. This is the last boss fight that we need to do with the Spellblades, because after this is the boss that will give us the Thunder Stance. And one thing I always find very funny about this boss is that at the very start, while they're just like loading in, they will just get hit by one of the fireballs, and I find it very funny every time. Ideally, you want to be parrying these ice balls back because they do a lot of damage to the shield. I was saying earlier about enemies that like to just go in all sorts of directions, try and disappear and make it as tough as possible to be. Or just get to. This is definitely one of them. Teleporting away. Never mind, shield. Come on, give me one of these things. Track down. See, it does a lot of damage because also it will just exist. Thank you. That enemy is definitely one of the more annoying ones to be dealing with. But now we get Thunder Control, that's what it's called. It was Thunder something, I knew that much. So what I'm going to do, equip this over the first one because it's literally the only one I'm going to be using for now on. Upgrade this as much as I can for the time being, and this is going to allow me to play like an absolute muppet and be rewarded for it. It's wonderful. The whole backdash into back dodge into the leaping strike gets very much rewarded with this art. Also, we are getting weird spiders. Come on. Another really nice thing about the Thunder Control is that it has its own like inbuilt dispel function in it. So if you do essentially the killing blow with it, it will dispel for you, which, you know, saves a little bit more time. Happy to see it. If you manage to land with it, but that's neither here nor there. Alright. So, what is worse than little spiders? A bigger one? I guess. We're gonna have to fight a bigger one. Alright, so... you definitely want to avoid getting hit by those little spirit skulls that get thrown around, because what they will essentially do is put a debuff called Seal, and that means you can't use your Exorcist abilities. And as you can see, it does a lot of damage. So not being able to use them would be really bad. Please stop dodge rolling. Only I'm allowed to dodge roll. That's that boss done. This is essentially how a lot of the fights are going to go from now on. boss fights are just going to get shredded by this thunder control. And it is absolutely wonderful. This next upcoming screen is one of the more... I'm thankful that I'm able to dodge fights on this screen just by dropping down immediately. There are so many spiders, so many flying enemies that I can just avoid them. Just, you know, hit the bricks. You don't want to fight spiders? Then don't. Alright. Moving on. Now while we're here, let me do some leveling up. Of that. Skill. Blue tree. I do not have any more of that. That's fine. I should be able to level that up soon. Yeah. One thing that's nice, at least about when it comes to quote-unquote routing, all of the materials and upgrade materials, by the end, you're going to have it all. You're going to be level 30. You're going to be stacked out with everything. You're not going to be too worried. Back when I was using just the spell blades for this fight, it was actually really awkward because I had to actually do the mechanics of the boss fight, but now I don't. It turns out just not doing the mechanics of a boss fight is quite nice. Ah, got sort of away. Never mind. This is what it's like when you get sealed away. It's terrible. Really, that hit me? I'm curious. There we go. Tree dealt with. And all these extra exorcism mods, it doesn't really mean anything. They don't do anything. That none of them are nearly as good as the thunder control that we have. So we just spam the hell out of thunder control and gets the job done. We've finally caught up to the spirit. We've been chasing after her for like 2/3 of the game, what it feels like. But we've caught up to her and she's like, we swear we are not responsible for the death of your friends. And we're like, alright, to help us deal with this whole issue. She's like, sure. Enemies, why are you such a nuisance? Cool. That's another case of dropping a little too early. Away. They also count as an enemy, so I can't go until they're also off the screen as well. Funny story. When I played through this game initially casually, I got to this next part, and my first thought was, well, she goes, hey, look, and I was like, oh yeah, there's a book. Completely ignoring the fact that this person is hanging here. I was like, there's a book! Hell yeah! I'm just like, never mind. It wasn't until after that I'm just like, I read the book and I was like, what's going on? And she's like, there's a person here! I was like, oh. Oh. Sure. Alright, let's go a little bit of extra experience. Alright. On this next screen, like, we'll find a bunch of the goo lads who aren't too much of an issue. And in the next wave, this one spider will be underneath. Hey, they got out from underneath the bridge. Sometimes they can stay there for an extended period of time and you can't do anything about them. I don't know why. It's really annoying. It's like, I just wanted to find you and you are hiding under a bridge. Get back here. Dealt with. Let me a little bit more. Let's see if I can actually upgrade this now. No, what am more stuff. Alright, sure. Cool. Now, we're here to stop the whole human sacrifice. Good on us. Comes with a few consequences. Should be fine. This is another boss that was a little bit annoying to deal with initially when I was using only the spell blades. Kind of had to play the boss mechanics and all that kind of stuff. You don't have to do it anymore. You just better understand. So you're trying to control. You're fine. Alright, chase back. Gonna dash away. This is what I mean about just constantly just backdashing and then just jumping on in. It's just that easy. Turns out when you just use lightning, things just work. Pretty good. Now there's a bunch of spirits. It's fine. The ladies that we're around with, they've been whisked away, so we have to go chase after them. It's like, we were right there. Come on. Now we have these annoying teleporting enemies that are just... that they will also seal you away, which is another nuisance thing. And those things do a lot of damage. Those little blades that they will fling out, they hurt a lot. So just be cautious. Hey, I wanted... enemy to spawn here. Alright. Now, I would constantly compare this game to kind of like Sekiro. At least in some of the... this one's like when it's still away. It was like some of the aesthetics, some of the themes. So, you're not going to be able to have a game similar to Sekiro without a dragon, right? And you're correct. We do have a dragon. And that is the next boss we fight, and it is the one I was telling you earlier that can sometimes just fly off into goddamn Narnia and you have to just wait for them. They can be really annoying. Also, want to get up here soon enough. Don't. I try and get up there. This. I try and get up here soon enough so that that last enemy won't drop down, so we don't have to chase him down just to get back up and do all that. So I'm gonna just this. There's thunder, just all fully dealt with. And now we have a dragon. First, we have to do this whole cinematic thing of chasing them down, which is very cool, but I've found new and inventive ways to screw it up on more than one occasion. One way is if I dash into this screen transition, I can just slide off the edge. The momentum will carry through, and I would just... Where's my dash? And I would just slide off into oblivion like that. Why did I say it? I knew it was going to happen. I had to say. I was going to find new and inventive ways to get myself killed. Alright. You just have to chase down. Perfectly fine. You don't have to interact with him whatsoever. Sometimes you will get a jump back from just like grazing some of the branches, and sometimes you feel like you get an extra jump, but you don't, and you use the jump anyway thinking you did, and then you end up in a bit of an awkward spot. Alright, let's fight this dragon. This is mostly the reason why I started using the thunder control, because throw that at me again. because trying to do this fight with Spellblades was not fun. That one did. Although he's been very kind to me and not going into Narnia. Come on, don't do this to me. You're so close. Hey, didn't go off into Narnia, let's go. Yeah, sometimes like they would literally fly off into like the background and you literally cannot interact with it whatsoever. So the fact that it did not do it once, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. All right. So now just a bit of a lore intermission for the characters. I'm not going to go through all of it. It's yeah, whatever. One thing about this game is that at the very start you can probably see there were two different characters. They play completely differently, they're completely different stories, and literally the only two overlapping things in terms of characters is that guy that you saw on the screen just there, the fox guy, and one of the bosses that we run into very soon. They are literally the only two characters that occur in both stories. So if you thought this is quite interesting, maybe also give the other story a run, because that is also of a similar length. In terms of speedrunning, I found it to be a little bit more difficult because they got a little bit more adventurous with the bosses towards the end, and some of them can be very, very dangerous. Even on casual, in a speedrun setting, I would consistently die to them because they can just be an absolute menace to deal with. So it is a fun change of pace to do that one, but very dangerous. All right, moving on to the next section. We are finally going to confront the people who are the reason why our friends died at the very start of the game. It's someone by the name of King Manfred. Yes, they are a monkey. So we've got all these various demons and creatures of various forms, and the remaining bosses will reflect that as well. They're all various kinds of beast men, I would say. This can be very annoying. I also at a time was considering like trying to route a no-hit run of this, and then I get to sections like this and I'm just like, no, I'm not. I am not trying to no-hit this thing. It is too easy to just get clipped by a random crossbow bolt out of nowhere. There is so much just random damage that can just like be thrown in your direction. I'm just like, nah, I'm good. First of the bosses, it's going to be Tiger. Big Tiger Man. And this is the guy that will appear in both the stories. They do, and because of how you interact with them in the other story, it essentially shows that the other story is like takes place after. Takes place after this one, and I'll show you very soon why. Chase him down. See, a lot of these attacks you can get some good perfect dodges or parries against, but why do that when you can just do this? Yeah. So the reason why this reason you talk to a second in the other story afterwards is that when you see him again, he has that little bit of a strip of missing hair still. The hat comes off and he's like, haha! Well, you see you've already met a certain swordsman. So yeah, that character does show up, and you do have to beat his ass again, and he's not too difficult. Alright. We're just trying to find out who is responsible for all the woes that have befallen us? Why are you in the ground, my dude? As you can see, Thunder just kind of rips through everything. Even non-boss enemies, it will just shred through everything. Now, this may seem like a bad situation. This may seem like this guy does not have our best interests at heart. But as you can see, he wants to kill King Mandrill as well. This is actually his son. But they're gonna help us out. And one thing I found out ages ago, I think it's been patched out since then, is that if you mash a little bit too much as they start talking, you just won't put the staff away and it just like locks the game. I was like, oh, awkward. So I've gone into the habit of just not spamming as much as I really can when I get into that section. Come on. Oh, don't go down. See, jump. Where'd you go? Thank you. See, a lot of trying to play this game fast comes down to how can you make the enemies as little of a hassle as possible. I am not doing a good showing of that. They are being a big hassle. Speaking of big hassles, there's little bits. Never mind. They are the literal only reason, like those small enemies are the literal only reason why I ever have to even remotely think about stamina in this run. Because when they hit you, they will put like a debuff on you that very much nerfs your how much stamina you use. Like, it's the only time I ever have to worry about it. So if I get rid of them real quickly, it makes it real nice. And now into our next boss. It's a big rhino. And so we've got a big dragon into a big tiger. That one. Can you imagine what kind of animals are going to be coming up next? I already spoiled one saying King Mandrill. I'll give you a little bit of time to... Why'd you immediately do that? That is rude. Why are you parrying me? I'll give you a little bit of time to have a few guesses on what might be the next animal coming up. I'll give you a hint by saying the boss's name is Lady Poison. You probably have a few ideas on what a boss, and it being a creature of some kind. What? There's at least a few ideas that come to mind when the name Lady Poison comes to mind, but let me assure you, you're probably not going to expect what we end up seeing. It is a very unique enemy. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, okay. They've definitely gone out of left field with some of this. Also, I was mentioning doing level 1 runs of this at some point, and like they are very fun. These screens right here get very dangerous because you don't really have the health to just tank through all these enemies, and also you don't necessarily have the most amount of damage. You definitely notice the difference in the amount of damage you do once you don't have the 30 levels backing you up. This is not the boss, by the way. This is just a big deer. Dealt with. Still a little bit of electricity. There are items in this game, but a lot of them don't really make that much of a difference. To where I think there was at one point I was considering like running them in, but I was like, that requires effort. Anything about me, I hate having to put effort in. That's why I speedrun games, so I can play them as cool as possible. This is also a really dangerous group of enemies because there'll be two that will be constantly throwing projectiles at you. Okay. And then there will be the two wolves that will be just like constantly charging you, and it's like really annoying. Actually, let me level up here. Alright, so now we're going to be meeting Lady Poison. And did you guess this? It's unique, that's for sure. Definitely a design that I did not expect the first time I was playing this game. I was like, oh, okay. And first time playing this game was definitely an issue to try and deal with, but now we just... we just use the power of lightning. There she goes. She's actually like a very interesting fight to do, like when it's actually a challenge, and you have to actually worry about the mechanics because she does a lot of parrying. She has a lot of teleporting, and can make it very awkward to deal with. But yeah, we don't have to deal with that. You just apply a little bit of lightning to the forehead, and that kind of deals with the problem. We are making our way towards the end of the game. It's just a few more screens to do, and then a couple boss fights. Honestly, when it gets to this late game, the thing that is more of an issue to deal with is just these screens worth of enemies, less so than the bosses. And until you do a level 1 run, or you play in the high difficulties, in which case, yes, the other the late game bosses you definitely do have to worry about. But in this difficulty, nah, you're good. You just kind of spam away at them, and they can't really do too much to you. This fight is actually pretty brutal because these wolves, they will just like armor through a lot of what you do and just keep on hitting you. They do not care. But again, just apply a little bit of light onto the forehead, does the job. And funnily enough, this screen, incredibly easier. I can still probably find ways to die in it, but I still find it so much easier. Mostly the times I have died in this screen is because... yeah, there it is, that anesthesia. It is going to nerf my... stamina, but we're fine. Get through them, we're fine. Never mind that lightning, that just goes off every now and then because why not? Alright, we get to level 30. That is max level for this. As you can tell by the Steam achievements. You're welcome for getting a bunch of free Steam achievements for you. For this game. Let's see, yeah, level 30 is the maximum. And we just have 2 more boss fights to do. Mandrill and another fight later on. After this. You don't even have to do any more like screens worth of enemies, it's just boss into boss and you're done. And again, like playing through this casually and on high difficulties, having to actually worry about the mechanics of these bosses, they could be a reasonable challenge. And it can be very entertaining to fight against. But when you have power of lightning and just not giving a damn, can't just... Come on, I said, power of not giving a damn. Easy. See, this game's easy. Alright, one more boss fight left to go.
在其你老实讲，
This boss fight can go very quick, so I'll just say thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, it's been a little bit scuffed. My controller not really wanting to cooperate. Things can just not wanting to cooperate a little bit, but we made things work. But it's been a lot of fun getting to show this game off. It is definitely I would consider a hidden gem that not too many people are too aware of, and I'm happy that more people get to see it. If you think it's interesting, pick it up. I'm pretty sure it's still on sale right now. It was brought up to me this morning that this game is currently on sale for at least the next couple of days. So if you do want to pick it up, now's the best time to do it. Also, yeah, our brother is the one who sold us out at the very start, so they are the reason everything has gone to shit. We do end up we end up carrying. Just because it makes it much easier. And time will be when he essentially blows up. Very soon, mine. I said. Time. Oh, as I said, a little bit scuffed, but we got there in the end. It all worked out, and it's all fine. But yeah, thank you for having me. It's been wonderful. I hope you all enjoy the rest of the marathon. We've been doing some great work, raising money for Game On Cancer, and it's a good cause. So yeah, have a good night and enjoy Final Fantasy VIII for the rest of the evening. Yeah, cool.
Awesome work, Phoenix. What a fantastic run. About 30 seconds before that run started, Phoenix looked over to the tech desk and went, none of my key bindings are working and my controller doesn't work. Oh, sorry, it was just his right key was not working. So he had to learn how to run the game as the run was starting. What a fantastic display of skill. That was amazing. So coming up next, we have Final Fantasy VIII being run by Diesel and Sayo. And for this run, we now have a $30 donation from Chikochi asking to please name Squall Corey in Final Fantasy VIII because he is a tiny baby boy. And this means Corey now leads the way in the Final Fantasy VIII Rename Squall donation incentive. So if you want to get that in, we're only a few minutes away from that Final Fantasy VIII run, so if you want to get a donation in for that, you better do it now. We also have a $31 donation from Anonymous. Phenomenal marathon run so far, and everyone, please rename Squall to Irvine. So now, Irvine leads the donation incentive by a single dollar. So please get in quick if you want someone else, some other name to win this. So with that, my shift hosting has ended. It has been fantastic to watch the last few runs with you guys. I'm sure Noops, who's taking over from me now, is going to have a great time with everybody, and I will be back later on in the marathon.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good night to everybody around the world. My name is Noops. I'll be taking you through this run as the host. Final Fantasy VIII is the game. Diesel and Sayo are the names. We are almost ready to go.